What's going on, everyone? If you are thinking about making a move to Edina, Minnesota, you are in the right spot. Today we are going to get after it with the pros and cons, the good, the bad, the up, the down of Edina, Minnesota. Edina is one of Minneapolis's first ring suburbs, and there is a lot to talk about. We are going to try and make sure to give you the full picture so you can make the decision that's going to be best for you. So let's get after it. Our first pro is going to be the school system in Edina. Let's get it. So we're just going to put a little context and set this up for you before we get into our pros and cons. Here is lovely Minneapolis, St. Paul. We affectionately call these the Twin Cities. Here's the Mississippi River, and the river runs through it. I like to say that every chance I get. And the river runs through it. So there goes the Mississippi River through the Twin Cities. And just to the southwest of Minneapolis is going to be our subject, and that is going to be Edina. So we will zoom in on this just a little bit to give you guys a better picture. We're going to call it an unofficial pro of living in Edina, and for a few good reasons. So there's this road here, which is 494, and this road runs all the way around the metro, loops up on the east side of St. Paul. This is called the Beltway. It's literally a loop that goes around the Twin Cities metro. That's on the southern border of Edina. It's a major thoroughfare. You're just minutes from that, almost any place in Edina. So you can get to pretty much anywhere really quickly by using 494. 62, which is another major east and west thoroughfare, cuts right through the center of Edina. 62 is a major east-west road bisecting Edina and Highway 100 north and south, along with Highway 169 north and south. These connect to all the major freeways. I like to say you can be anywhere from Edina in 10 to 20 minutes, depending on where you're going. A few more points of interest. Right here, we have the Minneapolis and St. Paul Airport. If you're not familiar, if you travel a lot for work, this is a fantastic airport. It's one of the US's most highly rated year in and year out. Depending on where you are in Edina, you're 10, 15 minutes from the airport. For you shoppers, here it is, affectionately called the Mall of Hysteria, the Mall of America. You may be shocked to learn I'm not a big mall guy, guys. But if you are, that is just on the southeastern flank here of Edina. Again, depending on where you're coming from in Edina, 10, 15 minutes tops. So you're going to be real close to that. Minneapolis has some great lakes, probably none more popular than these guys in here. We have Lakes Edina, Lake Harriet, and Lake of the Isles. A little bit lesser known as Cedar Lake here. These are great places to go in the summer. Super walkable, band shells, people windsurf, swim, picnic, a lot to do in these spots. And again, that's just right on the northern edge of Edina. Edina's location is going to be one of the great features of this community. So before we get into our Edina pros and cons, if this is your first time joining us on the channel, thank you and hello. My name is Chris, my business partner Trevor, and the team. We like to get out into Minneapolis communities like Edina and the surrounding area and show you guys what it's all about. We help people move here every single day. So if you are thinking about making a move to Edina, Minnesota, our contact information is below. Be sure to subscribe, bang that bell so you can be the first to know about real estate, the community, and all the other cool things happening around Edina and the rest of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And without further ado, we are going to get into pro number one, and that is going to be the school system in Edina. All right, guys, so we are going to get right into our pros and cons of living in Edina, Minnesota. Just a quick little setup in case this is one of your first time joining us. Edina started as a community in about 1888. It was originally kind of a flour and milling community, farming, a lot of those things, and it has transformed over time into one of Minneapolis and I would say the Twin Cities' most desirable places to live, and for good reason. It's got a vibrant art scene, great nightlife, the quality, we're going to get into more of this in this video, but just the quality of life in this community is absolutely fantastic. It's got a population of about 54,000. It's definitely going to be a little bit of an upper end suburb, but if you can handle that, you're going to love everything else about it. So getting into it, and you can kind of see behind me, I am standing at Edina High School, which is home of the Edina Hornets. You can kind of get a peek of what Edina brings to the table with just the facilities alone. We are walking in front of the Edina Performing Arts Center, part of the high school. If you didn't know any better, you'd probably think I was at a community college, because that's what this looks like. But Edina is going to be ranked consistently, usually according to ranking websites like niche.com and some other school ranking websites. It's usually in the top 2 or 3 districts in the state. So you really can't go wrong with the Edina public school system. Serves about 8,500 students in the district. I believe there's 6 middle schools in addition to the high school, which is where we are right now. And they have a lot of cutting edge programs. We've all heard the acronym STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. Edina takes it one further: science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math, as is evidenced by the Edina Performing Arts Center right behind us. They've got cutting edge aerospace programs, a lot of cool tech programs. So if you have kids, if the school system is important to you, Edina is going to be one of the best places in the state, as again, this system ranks very highly year in and year out. It's got fantastic facilities. If you look on their own website, they're big on student safety. You really can't go wrong with Edina schools. We are on to pro number 2 of living in Edina. And without a doubt, hands down, it's going to be the parks, the recreation, just the outdoor lifestyle, I would say. So yes, Edina is a first ring suburb of Minneapolis. However, they have over 40 parks, over 1,500 acres of green space. I am currently at Bresden Park, which is one of the probably the more well-known ones. And you can see just how nice this is. They're going to have fantastic walking trails in a lot of these parks. We are in the land of 10,000 lakes, my friends, so you're going to find water all over the place with these parks. Park buildings, things of that nature. Great facilities like the rest of Edina, and just very well kept. We also have Centennial Lakes Park, which is a bit more of an urban park. We've featured that in our Edina vlog video. But you know, the other thing to really keep in mind about Edina and a lot of Minnesota is this is a place where we get 4 seasons, and that means winter, yes. So the cool things about these parks is a lot of these are really year-round parks. Obviously, I'm out here in mid-April. It's a nice day for Minnesota. We're going to see people walking, running, doing all kinds of that stuff. But if you're out here, you know, in the middle of February, you're going to find snowshoers. You're going to find fat tire bikers, cross-country skiers. You go to some of the lakes, you might find people kite surfing on the frozen lakes. So Minnesotans, Edinans, they take their recreation pretty seriously, and that happens year-round. Parks are definitely going to be really high on the list. You know, and just kind of anecdotally, I would also add, in addition to, you know, formal parks, which Edina, like we just said, has more than 40 of them, they also just do a fantastic job with their green spaces. You know what I mean? When you might not, where there might not be a formal park, you're still going to find a lot of chunks of woodlands, green grass. For being a first ring suburb of a major metropolitan area, they do a fantastic job with making it very easy for their residents to get out and enjoy nature. It's one of my personal favorite things about Edina is just how easy it is to get out. I'm in the center of the city, but you know, surrounded by woods, which I love. All right, guys, we are on to our next pro of living in Edina, and that is going to be the dining and shopping options that you have. And honestly, I could have went one of 2 places for this video. It was either going to be the Southdale Mall, Galleria, which we have in some of our other videos, or 50th and France, which we have in this video and others. And I elected to come back to 50th and France, frankly, because I personally like this area more, but you can't go wrong with either. Shopping and dining are going to be highlights of living in the Edina community. It is accented by how accessible they make things. Like you can see where I'm walking now, kind of this paver brick courtyard behind me, and these narrow passageways that kind of interweave between a lot of the shops around the 50th and France area. It kind of has a European street feel about it almost. But just to talk about it, so 50th and France, which is the area we are at now, they have the Edina Art Fair every year. I think that draws something like 250,000 people. It's a crazy number. They shut down the streets, tons of art, food, drinks, basically a big party for a few days over the course of the weekend. And Edina is really good about doing a lot of events and things like that. The shopping hub is probably going to be over around Southdale, which again you can see in our Edina video tour. In the Southdale Mall, you're going to have lots of high-end retailers. You will also have the Galleria, which is kind of more the same high-end retailers, from clothing to houseware and everything in between. This area where I am now, 50th in France, like I said, I personally just like it a little bit better. I don't think Edina has a historic downtown, but if it did, it would probably be this area, and the shops and things around this area are going to be a bit smaller. They're going to be a bit more mom and pop type feel versus, you know, having huge shopping mall type stuff. Dining options, they're scattered throughout Edina. Just up in front of me is France Avenue. On France, you can find the Edina Grill, which is kind of an institution. You can find a French restaurant called Salou, which I really like. Right across the street is a place called Reiku Sushi. But dining is going to do very well in most of Edina. Now, one word on the nightlife. If you are a late night, shut the club down kind of person, you're probably going to want to be more downtown Minneapolis. Edina is going to be a bit more, probably of an older, a bit wealthier clientele probably. You're not going to find the bars raging till 2 a.m. So if that's your cup of tea, you're probably looking more big city, downtown Minneapolis, that kind of thing. But again, overall, shopping, dining options from high end to mom and pop, you really cannot go wrong in Edina. All right, guys, so as we wrap up this section on the pros of living in Edina, Minnesota, I think they really all come together to give probably our most significant pro of all, and that's just going to be the quality of life. For a lot of the reasons we've already talked about, you're going to have top tier education. You have fantastic parks and recreation. Edina itself has a great sense of community. Yes, it's a first-ring suburb of almost 55,000 people, but I've lived here, and I can tell you Edina does a very good job of keeping it with a small town feel. People say hello, people get to know you. If you start digging into the Edina Community Center, you will find they have all kinds of options on continuing education to recreation. They have something for everyone. You combine that with the regular farmers markets, the art fair, the cultural activities they have, and the list just keeps getting longer and longer. You know, we are going to get into the cons of Edina here soon because that is part of this video, but I told you in the beginning, I do think the pros of Edina significantly outweigh the cons. But I'll tell you right now, what con is going to be, probably the biggest con is going to be the cost of living. But if you can get past that, it's fantastic. The high cost of living is reflected in the community. You know, you can see this sidewalk I'm on, brick paver sidewalk. You do not see overhead power lines. It's clean, it's safe, it's done really, really well. I spent a lot of my life in Edina, so maybe I'm a little biased, but if you are considering moving to the Twin Cities, I would say Edina is definitely a place that should be really high on the list. All right, so we are going to get into some of the cons of Edina, and I am standing at the Edina Country Club. And that's not a coincidence, because when I think of country clubs, I think of expensive things. And it just so turns out that most, or I would say the most significant cons about Edina are going to be financially related. So let's get into it. Con number one is going to be just the general affordability and or cost of living in Edina. Median price for a house in Edina is going to be about $6.25. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that number is brought down by the condos and whatnot. It's hard to find a home in Edina under $500,000 that's not going to be in need of some significant work. So affordability is generally going to be a concern. Like I said, the median price of a house is $625. This is also a higher income community. Median household income is going to be about $130,000. So make no mistake about it. This is definitely an upper end suburbs. You're going to pay more to go out and have dinner. You're going to pay more to get gas. You are going to pay more to live here. And that is, in my opinion, by far, hands down, the biggest con to Edina is just going to be the cost of living. As an example, the effective property tax rate in Edina, I believe, is 1.3%. And I think in 2025, they actually have a 13% property tax increase proposed. I'm not exactly sure where that's at, but I know they're talking about increasing them further. To give you an idea, around the rest of the Twin Cities, effective property tax rate is more around 1.1 versus Edina's 1.3. So that just kind of stacks up into that same realm of affordability. I'm just going to get right into con number 2 because I think it's kind of tied to the financial piece, and that's going to be the real estate market, guys. Like most places in the country, Edina is struggling for inventory. There is not a whole lot on the market. As we've talked about through this video and some others, it is a very, very desirable place to live. So it can be hot. If you are shopping in Edina, you're going to want to have your ducks in a row. You're going to want to do the obvious, easy things. Be pre-approved. Have an agent, an agent that knows what they're doing, that can get you out into the community, show you around, and write competitive offers. Even with rates being where they are, you are still going to run into bidding wars, very short time on market, things like that. And it's because of the first part of this video. It's the pros. People want to be in Edina. So if you want to get into Edina, you need to have a plan. You need to have your ducks in a row. Good entry point might be a condo or townhome, just because in the Twin Cities area in general, there's a lot of those on the market. And if you are going to get a deal in Edina, Minnesota's hot real estate market, it's probably going to be a condo. So con number 1 is going to be the high cost of living. Con number 2 is going to be that competitive and hot real estate market. And con number 3 actually has to do with the traffic. Okay, so as I mentioned, one of the cons with Edina is probably going to be traffic. And honestly, that's one of those things that just kind of depends what your tolerance is for stuff like that. I personally don't do so well in traffic. I'm the guy when you look in your rearview mirror in traffic who's behind you beating his head against the steering wheel and freaking out. But if traffic's not that big of a thing for you, it might be less of a deal. So again, here's Edina. Kind of set that up for you already. So Edina southern border is basically going to be this road here, 494. And I'm kind of kidding, and I'm also kind of serious when I say that it feels like this stretch of 494 has been under construction for the last 15 years. This can get real nasty during rush hour, but to be honest with you, it's also hit and miss. This is kind of the main way to get to the Mall of America. It's a main route, east and west route through the Twin Cities. So 494, especially during rush hour, can get pretty nasty. But this can kind of back up almost any time of day. And I think, like I say, I'm not kidding you. Every time I drive it, I feel like that is under construction. It is currently under construction significantly. So 494 is definitely one you got to watch out for. Zoom in here a little bit more. Additionally, another road that you definitely need to keep your eye on is 62, which is this east-west road that basically runs right through the middle of Edina. Same kind of thing as 494. During rush hour time, 62 gets pretty busy. Again, it's a main east-west thoroughfare that runs across the entire metro. I actually just came home today on this about 2 p.m. and it was really, really slow moving. So you just need to be aware both 62 and 494 can certainly get a little bit dicey with traffic depending on the time of day and when you are around. Edina itself is not too bad. It's basically the getting in and out of these main thoroughfares that we are talking about. France Avenue, which we've covered in this video and lots of others, that is going to run right here. This can certainly get busy as well and back up a little bit, but I can't tell you I think that's a major traffic concern like 494 and 62 might be, but it's something to keep an eye on. So that can be one of the potential downsides of Edina, is the main arteries in and out of there can definitely be dicey at times. All right, we are at pretty much the end of this video, the last con of Edina, Minnesota. I figured I'd show you guys one more cool place. So we are at Pamela Park. We'll give you guys a quick 360. It's a mixture of some trails, fields. We have the obligatory ice rink, which if you're in Minnesota, I think is required at every single park. But Pamela Park, another one of Edina's many awesome parks. Con number 4, and I think we're going to end on 4 cons. I think I got 5 pros and 4 cons. To me, the good definitely outweighs the bad anyway, so it kind of makes sense. Edina is spelled E-D-I-N-A. And what does that have to do with a con, you ask me? So If you are from Edina, some of our friends in the surrounding suburbs have come up with this clever little acronym for EDINA. Stands for Every Day I Need Attention. um, as we've talked about, Edina certainly is a bit of a wealthier community. So there can at times be some stigma. If you are from Edina, you're probably going to get called a cake eater at least once in your life, maybe twice. I know I've heard it a few times. Are these things a big deal? That's up for you guys to decide. Personally, yeah, no, that doesn't bother me. To put a bow on this and wrap this all up, I think Edina is a great community. I was born here. I have spent a lot of my life here. What I can tell you about Edina is yes, the cost of living is a bit higher, but with those resources comes greater opportunity, comes a fantastic community that's very well kept and provides opportunity in all forms, from great schools to great parks to things to do. My personal experience in growing up here was yes, this is a first ring suburb of Minneapolis, but they do a really good job of keeping a hometown feel to it. It doesn't feel big city-ish at all. So, I personally, to me, the pros outweigh the cons, but that's for you to decide. So, thank you very much for joining us on this video today. Again, my name is Chris. If you guys haven't already, contact information is below. If you're thinking about making a move, if you'd like to see something in one of these videos, please subscribe, tap the bell. That way you can be the first to know on what's going on in Edina, Minneapolis, and all the surrounding communities. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.